can't switch my chords fast enough. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and just some, basic kind of guidelines to help you get switching these open cowbell chords as quick as possible. There's a lot of different approaches that you can do, but one is to, like, let's say, limit yourself to just 2 chords and practice 2 chords, switching those 2 chords over and over. I find that the more info at once, the more likely you're to get overwhelmed. Like I would think when I used to buy a chord book, for instance, and it was that thick, and you go through and there's 1,000 different chords in there, and it's overwhelming, and you kind of feel defeated before you even start practicing. So one thing is you can just limit yourself in the beginning. Like, for instance, the most easy chord is an E minor chord. And the second probably most easiest chord would be A major. So if you're having problems switching all these different chords, start with just the 2 easiest ones and switch back and forth. Also, when you're doing something else like multitasking, watching TV, old joke I used to say is waiting for your Pop-Tart, different things. Sometimes food related, sometimes not. But what you can do is, you're on the computer, you're surfing the internet, anything, you could just sit, and while you're watching that show or whatever, you could just do the shapes of the chords without actually playing music. Just the shapes of the chords. It really pays off because it's all time put in. The more specific technique tips that I want to give you about switching chords, though, are things that I've learned from guitar teachers myself. I've had some great guitar teachers out there that are still teaching other people, and some of those tips would be something like this: taking a D major chord. Any of these chords, and I'm just using these as examples, you can form the shape. And then something that's really good is, my joke was kind of like you had, freeze spray, and you're like, you spray it on there and your fingers get frozen. So what you're doing is you're keeping the shape of the chord, taking your hand off, and then putting it back on and making the, appropriate adjustments to get that chord shape right. You could just literally take it a little bit off, put it back on, take it off, put it on, so forth, and so on. Shake your hand out, try it with a different chord. And what you're doing is you're getting that muscle memory going. Besides just always forming the chord, you're also, when you do that and you're trying to keep the shape, your brain and your fingers and everything are remembering it quicker than if you just formed the chord and strummed it. I promise, because I've seen it with a lot of students. Okay? Another tip is using one finger as like your locator point for that chord. So like, for instance, a G major chord, it looks like this. Instead of like trying to get that whole shape down and memorizing that whole shape, and I'm talking about beginners, think about your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string right there. Boom. That's my G chord. That's like what I'm targeting. Then the other fingers go down. A C major chord. Ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. Okay? So watch, a C to a G, target it. What was it? The middle finger. Ah. Now, the obvious goal is we want... doesn't start that way, and you have to be a little patient with yourself, but target notes.